Hello guys, today I'm going to talk about how to upload a file using Angular. So there are a bunch of online tutorials. I think those are way too complicated. So here the example is super easy. So first you build a backend. I use this express-fileupload, and it's super easy to use. You look at this basic file upload. It's the backend is just these lines of code. And if you remove the blank lines and the comment lines, I don't know, like 15 lines of code, not even 15 lines. Super easy. You can set up a server that expects a file data object. So this server, the request should be a file data object with a field called a sample file. So on your backend, you're expecting form data coming in, and one of the field in that form data object is called a sample file, and that should be a file. So in your front end, your submission should match your backend. So in your front end, if you submit a form data object with the two fields, email and name, then nothing will happen because the backend is expecting a field called a sample file, not email or name. So make sure your sample file field names match. Yeah. And here they move the file into a folder, uses this file name. So that's pretty much it. Is backend. It's super easy. Now let's talk a little bit about the backend I built. I guess I need to start the backend I built is almost identical to that tutorial. It's more turgid because I loaded a bunch of other middleware, but the key is the same. Only difference here, I used the parameter while using this file upload middleware. So express-fileupload. Yeah, I set a file limit to 50 megabytes, and also my response is all JSON. So instead of using plain text. And here I also use the sample file as the name, so the same as the tutorial. And here the folder that I use to store my files is called public/uploads. Yeah, and also I use whatever the file name being uploaded as the file name. So sample file.name as the file name. So here is the folder public uploads. So this is the folder where I will save my uploaded file. And the endpoint is the same. Basically, your localhost 3000/upload. By the way, if you use this express generator, the default port actually is 3000. It's not 8000 as in the tutorial. If you look at the binary file, here it's the 3000 by default. Yeah, so you should make sure that you call the right API, right URL. Now let's do a test with this. Postman, super easy test. I believe I already have it launched here. So here is my URL, http localhost 3000/upload. The correct URL, correct endpoint. And my request is a post request, and the data I'm sending is called FormData. Is a FormData type of data. And in my FormData, I should have a sample file field with a file. You can have any other fields, doesn't matter, but you should have at least one field called a sample file, and that is actually a file. Let's select a file. So let's cat3. And then you make that API call post with URL, form data with a field called sample file, and as file selected. Send. Okay, it's not working. Why? I didn't start the server. Let's node more. Okay, the server started. Now let's upload again. Let's give it a second. Send. Response, file uploaded. Let's see. Under this binary public folder, uploads, see, hey, there's a cat image. I just uploaded. Let's delete this guy. Okay, so the API is working, which is good. Let's close out this Postman. Now the front end. The front end, I will first give you an overview. The front end is also actually building this same project. Client. Let's serve this client. Takes a couple seconds. Yep. So the front end is basically a few steps. First, you need to this client. You need to create a FormGroup object to intake your data, intake your files, which is optional, of course. You don't have to create this reactive form group. you can just directly create some FormData object in JavaScript. So this reactive form group is a Angular thing. This FormData is a JavaScript thing. So to use FormData, you don't have to import anything. The FormData is a native JavaScript thing here. The reason I use the form group first is because chances are when you upload a file, you want to upload some other data, metadata. You don't just want to upload a file. That does not make any sense. Because you want to say, hey, what is this file for? You can. So here's the file upload. You can see I put some blurbs here. The first setup a backend we already did. The second step is to use this called patchValue method on your form group to add this file you selected the button to this my form group object as an extra field. Then you can just map this form group fields to this form data. So first you create an empty form data, then you use form data append method to add these name value pairs. Of course, you can just do other stuff. You can just bypass this my form and add those values with these code. But in practice, you should be as user form to let people enter data. You don't have the user type in these values in Java, in TypeScript. So you should have a form group. That's why I use the form group. But in order to submit a file, that form group is not necessary. You can just directly create a form data object and send in your file. But in production, chances are you will have this field to accept a bunch of other data. And then you call the API service, which makes the post call, which is super easy. Yeah. URL and your form data object. Okay, let's look at this thing at work. Let's use my daughter's name. Choose a file. Let's see, just cat number 5. Submit. Upload success. Let's look at the backend. Where is it? Client uploads cat 5. Yeah, it's uploaded here. No problem. So let's leave this file. Okay, now let's look at the code on the backend. As I mentioned, it's really simple. Just a couple steps, 3 steps. So this upload module, first on your front end, you need to ignore everything. This is just the blurbs. Here is the true code. You have a reactive form, and in your reactive form you have one field called a name. You input the username, just I did, right? And then you have another input field where you can select a file, and you have a button to submit the form. So when you click on the last button, you call this method. When you select a file, you call upload file method. So let's go to the component. Okay, so this upload file, once you select a file, like I did just now, it would emit an event. This event target, you can access the selected files. The user may select 10 different files, but you only take the first file because we are expecting a single file. Now you call this method patchValue on your form group. My form is a form group declared here. And you add this file to your form group with a name, whatever name you want. But here, when you transfer you pass your data from form group to a form data object, you have to use this sample file here, because the form data has to have a field called a sample file. Otherwise, your backend will totally get confused. It has no clue what the heck that is. You send a bunch of data, name value pairs in that form data, and the backend is expecting a field called a sample file. So you need to use this sample file, and you pass your name field into this name field. You pass your sample file from your form group to your sample file field in your form data. So basically you create a blank form data and pass the data from your form group to your form data object. And then you call that service. It's super easy, just a one-liner. So you don't have to use the service. You can directly import a HTTP module and use this HTTP call in your component. But we know in Angular we don't want to do that. It's a good practice to create a separate service to deal with the servers. So this upload service is just one line of code. Yeah. Upload data, form data, accepts that form data created by your component and make this HTTP call and pass back, return the observable. So the HTTP call always return an observable. And here your component will subscribe to that observable and change the status of this success variable here. So if it's success, you change the value to success, and this text called upload success will be displayed. So that's basically it. It's super, super easy, right? The backend is easy to set up, and the front end, your Angular project, just a form group with whatever fields you want, and one of the fields has to be a file. You pick that file using that button, and once your file is picked, you patch that file to your form group, and then you transfer the data from your form group to this form data object, and then you submit that form data with the correct URL. That's all there is to it. It really is super simple. You don't have to write hundreds of lines of code to upload a single file. Okay.